need a high-end designer or a lot of money to get a luxe look. Be your own interior designer.
This is Affordable Interior Design, the podcast.
Here's your host, Betsy Helmuth.
Let's move on to my next question, which comes all the way from Ontario, Canada, from Kaylin. Kaylin writes, "Hi Betsy, I bought my 114-year-old home 3 years ago and have been having the best time adding my upgrades and hiding the terrible work that the previous owners have done. The drywall upstairs must have been done by a child, not to mention the fact that part of the wall was covered in wood instead of drywall. So I decided to cover it up and lean into the cottage feel of the low ceilings by creating a faux shiplap with MDF that I painstakingly cut, nailed, primed, and painted with my partner. One more coat and I will be totally done. The color is Benjamin Moore mayonnaise, OC 85. The room pictured is my bedroom. It's north facing and faces the street. Please don't mind the painter's tape and such." Oh, please, Kaylin, if you could see my house and how much painter's tape. I mean, if anybody's looking, where should I invest my money? I've got some spare money. I'm looking to, buy some stock. Painter's tape, 3M blue painter's tape. All right, anyway, I'm debating on what to do for the drapery. I want something that will make it difficult for people to see inside, but I don't want to block all the beautiful work I did either. I don't need blackout curtains, as I can even sleep without drapes. Should I do something semi-sheer? Should I go with Roman blinds? I can sew, and I've been wanting to practice. So if you suggest making my own, I have no problem with that. By the way, I'm not sure what my style words would be, but I've always been into the cottage feel, even as a child. So I don't think that my love for cottage core is a temporary thing. FYI, this room is about 12 feet by 10 feet, and the max height is just under 7 feet. The ceilings slope to the ground, and they're about 3 feet away from the floor. Thank you, Kaylin. All right, Kaylin, well, I am so glad that you included quite a few pictures because this is something you've got to see to fully understand. But yes, it kind of peaks in a triangular shape. You've done a beautiful job. I mean, that must have taken forever to fully shiplap this space. I had the same problem in my cottage, 1905, so I think the same era. And 3/4 of the walls were drywall, and 1/4 of the walls was the wood paneling. And I was like, let's just rip that out. Let's just rip out that wood paneling because it did make it feel more cozy, but it felt disjointed. And, if the whole thing had been wood paneling, I may have embraced it. I may have painted it versus ripping it out. But I ripped it out and I absolutely love the result. But I really love your result as well, fully covering it with shiplap. That is not for the faint of heart. And I am so impressed that not only can you do this work with the wood, but you can also sew. So many talents. Let's see. First of all, you were worried that if you do drapes, you're going to cover up the beautiful work that you did. And I can tell you right now, that's absolutely not true. You have shiplap on every wall and the ceiling. People are not going to miss this work. Plus, you only have, let me just confirm that this is accurate, one window. One window. I am worried that all the lines, the linear lines from the shiplap are making this feel a little cold. I think this room desperately needs drapes to soften those straight lines with the undulating curves of fabric. While I would be tempted to do a Roman blind so that you can show off your work, you have plenty of shiplap to see. And I worry that a Roman blind is going to eat up a ton of your window because Roman blinds have to have a header where all the fabric gathers. And unless you do something outside mounted well above the window, it's going to really eat up a lot of your natural daylight. Additionally, I assume that this is the wall you're going to put the bed on because all the other walls slope and go all the way down to 3 feet. So you'd be constantly hitting your head or having to bend over to reach your bed. So the headboard is going to cut off a lot of this window. And yes, I do think you should do a headboard. The thing I love to do with drapes when I have to place the bed in front of the window is I hang the drapes far outside so that they are wider than the bed. Now, of course, when I push them to the side, I want them to cover the edge of the window frame, but I don't want the entire moment, the windows with the drapes, to be narrower than the bed. So you make sure to hang that rod so that it's outside the frame of the bed, so that the window moment becomes wider than the bed moment. And that way it feels a bit more grounded, a bit more purposeful. Guys, a struggle. It's a struggle. And I really want you to accentuate the height where you have it by hanging the drapery higher than the window box. Now, what do I mean by that? Typically I do like 4 to 6 inches sometimes. It's really dependent on the room. I wouldn't say I have a hard and fast rule. But for this particular space, I would definitely go 8 to 12 inches above this window, especially because you're going to be putting some window framing or trim around the window. So that 8 to 12 inches I'm speaking of would be above the trim, not above the window box. And I think that will really help to draw your eye up and to take it away from the fact that the sides get so low. I also think you've got this big old ceiling fan covered in red plastic to protect it. I think you really need to spend some time considering that light fixture. It's going to be a huge focal point in the room considering the walls and the ceiling have the same treatment or application. I really want you to make sure that that piece is a showstopper. Ceiling fans are regularly unattractive. I think I've rarely described a ceiling fan as a showstopper. I can understand if you need one in this space for air circulation or whatever. A lot of my clients are like, ceiling fan is non-negotiable in here, even though I don't like a ceiling fan in a bedroom, especially in a primary bedroom, especially. I'm putting one in my kids' room because my son has a sweater. Is this TMI? He's no longer a lonely sweater because he's going to lunch with the friend. I paid the $10 and he even asked the friend over for a play date. Now, I don't know what they're going to do or where they're going to sit. They're going to have to sit on that slouch. But I just wanted to update you quickly with that sort of tangent. I wanted to update you that he's doing a lot better. He's not a ton happier, but he's adjusting. And in middle school, maybe that's normal. But he has a friend that he invited over for a play date, and it warms my heart. And I want you to have a great looking ceiling fixture so that you can add some wow to this bedroom because I'm already wowed by all of your skills. Well, Kaylin, keep writing in as I discover more about my 114-year-old cottage. I'm sure I'll have even more wisdom to share. So there you go. A big thank you to Aton and the Embassy who wrote our theme song. A shout out to Catherine Heller who owns the podcast shop and is our editor extraordinaire. We also want to thank Ginny Sunasan and her team at the Savvy Podcast Agency for their help with our social, our YouTube channel, and so much more. We also want to thank Uploft, which is our parent company who supports this podcast. And lastly, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for all your support.